Hey guys, what's going on? Chris here with Shugghead Gaming, and here is part 1 of 2 in my personal top 30 PSVR games of all time. What originally started as a top 10 quickly became a top 20, then 25, and then 30, as I simply couldn't stand to cut some of the best games released for PSVR over the past 2 years. So without further delay, I give you games 30 to 16. The top 30 starts off with Korix, an earlier PSVR game and possibly the largest hidden gem in the PSVR library. Developed by just one guy, Korix is a VR riff on the RTS genre. Mine resources and build up your defenses. At your disposal you will find turrets, infantry, ground assault vehicles, and aircraft, as well as a nuke or two. Your strategy is your own as you reach into the world using a move controller to build and place your army. With a 5-hour campaign, skirmish mode, and online multiplayer, Korix had me in the headset for hours on end, second only to maybe Firewall. Don't let the Tron-like visuals throw you off, for once in the headset, the multi-tiered maps feel like giant playgrounds in VR as you look up and down and around to see the advancements of your competitors' units. Balancing base building with offensive strategies all while planning to secure your next resource mine is seriously some of the most addictive fun I've ever had in VR. Doom VFR is an original 5-hour campaign made for VR. Some weird control decisions, regardless of whether using the aim, moves, or DS4, keep this from being higher on my list, but it's still freaking Doom in VR. With fantastic visuals and super fast gameplay, Doom VFR features all the guns and baddies from the core game. With no multiplayer, it's still on the short side, but nothing on PSVR is quite as fun as picking up your aim controller, rocking a double-barrel shotgun, and shoving it into the face of a 10-foot demon standing in front of you. As a launch title, Driveclub VR took a bit of a beating when people jumped in and saw the visual downgrade from the standard version by the same name. True, the trackside visuals can be overly blurry, but the pure immersion of sitting inside these fantastic supercars with their sharp detailed interiors is still VR magic. With all the tracks, most of the cars, and day and night races, Driveclub VR has a lengthy solo campaign, but is easily at its best when jumping online with up to 7 other friends. GT Sport is easily the better looking and handling of the two titles, but Driveclub VR with its simcade physics is fast and fun and definitely worth the price of admission.
You will travel to Rhea, one of Saturn's moons.
Red Matter is a sci-fi exploration puzzle game originally released as an Oculus Rift exclusive. Explore an abandoned base on Saturn's moon while you search to figure out what happened to everyone. With easily some of the best visuals on the PSVR, Red Matter combines intelligent and fair puzzles that push the story forward rather than just messing with you for the sake of it. As a sci-fi nerd, Red Matter's 5-hour campaign was a fun and interesting title from beginning to end, and with a polished execution and ambition rarely seen in the puzzle genre, it has earned itself a place on this list.
Get out of there ASAP, now! Run!
Welcome to the Bout of Blood arena.
Unfortunately, by releasing the same week as Firewall 0 Hour, many missed out on the incredible PSVR exclusive Bout of Blood. Compete to become the champion of the arena as its overseers test you and your fellow challengers in a winner-take-all fantasy reality show. Awesome ship-to-ship combat with real-time resource management and Borderland-esque graphics make this instantly fun. However, once I realized the deep strategic elements of helping or hurting fellow contestants throughout the championship, I was hooked. Controlled with either 2 moves or a DS4, the sense of flying these hulking airships throughout the floating islands and missions of procedurally generated encounters ensures no 2 experiences will be the same. Once hooked, I found myself playing over and over again to discover new environments, opponents, and encounters while trying out new combat techniques. Probably one of the best PSVR games no one has played. Be sure to check this out. Creed Rise to Glory, taking place in the Rocky franchise, was a nostalgic, testosterone-filled trip when I first jumped into the latest game by VR veterans Servios. Through its short campaign and online versus mode, Creed Rise to Glory aimed to bring a more sim-like version of boxing to VR. Despite a few bugs at launch, Creed ended up being a good-looking and deep boxing game that really sold the whole experience of sparring down with an opponent in the ring. Definitely not for those who want to sit down and relax when gaming. Creed will have you dancing, swinging, and sweating. The question is, will you run out of stamina in-game or in real life first? A huge surprise for PSVR owners at the end of 2018 was Rush VR. Jump off a cliff and sail down mountainside courses in your wingsuit. Even though the texture quality can be a little reminiscent of the PS2 era, graphics are sharp and the sense of speed and height is amazing. With over 90 course variations across 4 regions and an incredible 8-player online mode, Rush has enough content to keep you busy for a while. Rush surprised the hell out of me when it landed on PSVR. Its amazingly accurate control schemes and its incentives to be daring made this some of the most pure fun I've had in my headset to date. To the Top is one of those VR games where once you jump in, you immediately know why VR is awesome. Free-running meets the PS1 classic Jumping Flash. To the Top has you navigating, leaping, exploring, and mastering more than 35 levels of vertical fun. The unique control scheme allows you the freedom to climb, swing, fly, and throw yourself with ease using 2 move controllers, while limiting motion sickness in the process. To the Top is one of my favorite experiences in VR and made even more fun when competing online with friends. Another quality launch title that has stood the test of time is Battlezone. With its Tron-like graphics, some may write this off as a crap VR title, but you would be wrong. Battlezone's deep upgrade tree and strategic campaign structure make it perfect for multiple replays, and especially when co-oping the campaign with a friend. A multitude of tank and weapon choices is at your disposal as you take on level after level of increasingly difficult and diverse enemies. Sitting in your fully realized cockpit is an amazing feeling as you glide through levels and pick off enemies from either above or below, taking on boss structures and desperately trying to survive the arcade onslaught. Battlezone is still to date one of the most complete and polished games available for PSVR. And yet another huge surprise for PSVR in late 2018 was In Death. Incredibly reminiscent of the Dark Souls series, In Death is a range-based riff on that game model with a procedurally generated roguelike twist. At first simply looking like a very polished and competent archery shooter, In Death grabbed me hard once I started to embrace its unique teleport arrow mechanic and began to understand the deep achievement system in place upon death. Each attempt has you pushing further and further into unique map layouts, attempting to reach the end. Death is inevitable and sometimes quick, but your past efforts unlock new abilities, weapons, and enemies, meaning as you get better, the game gets harder. The game loop is addicting, the archery gameplay deep and rewarding, and when combined with the jaw-dropping and polished visuals, In Death earns a place on this list.
Broadcasting now across every band in every dimension. Sprint Vector!
Sprint Vector is 1 part Mario Kart and 1 part American Gladiator. With probably one of the best control schemes I've played in VR, Sprint Vector makes you feel superhuman as you skate, glide, fly, and shoot your way to victory through endlessly fun and creative tracks. This insane freedom of movement comes at a cost though, as you will be huffing and puffing and sweating your ass off as you pump your arms up and down to skate, flinging your arms down to climb, and Superman out to fly. Sprint Vector is very polished and insanely fun regardless of whether you play alone or with up to 8 players online in cross-play with PC VR headsets. Just be warned, this might get you in shape. As a huge Star Trek fan my whole life, Star Trek Bridge Crew was simply a dream come true. Literally standing on the bridge of a starship while it went into red alert or jumped to warp made the kid inside me scream with glee. Bridge Crew is fun solo as you can jump around from helm, tactical, and engineer, or simply command the crew from the captain's seat. However, the true success and replayability of Bridge Crew lies in the 4-player co-op. You, with 3 others, command the USS Aegis throughout a 4 to 5 hour campaign, taking on the Klingon Empire, or in the ongoing missions mode, where procedurally generated missions deliver countless hours of co-op adventure. Communication and cooperation is key for success, as all of you learn to handle your given role, often resulting in unexpected results and hysterics. With stunning sound and visuals, Star Trek Bridge Crew is a Star Trek fan's wet dream, with the option to alternatively play aboard the original series Enterprise, or with the optional DLC, my personal favorite, the Enterprise D from the Next Generation series. This DLC also sees the introduction of the Borg, as well as the Romulans and new missions. With cross-headset online play and the addition of a flat version as well, Star Trek Bridge Crew still has some life for those looking to beam aboard.
Navigation systems online. Weapons online. Engines online. Magnetic catapult initialized.
Hold on tight, we're ready to deploy.
Launching in 3, 2, 1.
Valkyrie is most likely the first AAA quality VR game ever made. Starting out on PC VR and available as a PSVR launch title, Valkyrie is stunning in VR, and has still to date given me the biggest holy crap moment I've ever had in VR. With multiple updates, Valkyrie is easily the most robust online dogfighting game in VR, made especially potent with optional HOTAS flight stick support. With newly added land-based missions and revamped ship designs, Valkyrie has continued to improve and deliver a space combat experience that must be played to believe. Eve's one flaw lies in its almost single focus on multiplayer, with only a handful of basically solo training missions. However, for those interested in the PvP side of things, Valkyrie with its cross-headset play and optional flat gaming mode means it shouldn't be too hard to find an online community to tear up this epic shooter with. The Solitude Project is easily one of the best examples of what VR can bring to gaming. Originally released as a flat game, the Solitude Project was a bland experience and a very average game. Fast forward to the VR version and the Solitude Project became one of the best adventures I've ever had in gaming. In VR, this mysterious alien planet you've landed on engulfs you with its awe and immersion. The planet you've landed on is essentially the sci-fi version of the island from Lost, complete with underground caverns and a mysterious past. Second only to Skyrim for its open-world exploration, the Solitude Project is an open-world adventure with simple crafting, puzzle, and survival mechanics. With an incredible pro patch drastically boosting visual fidelity, the Solitude Project for pro owners is stunning in the headset, offering a VR world on a scale we have rarely seen. While not perfect, the Solitude Project does have some half-baked ideas and a clunky control scheme, but it more than makes up for it in its 15-hour campaign, delivering a mystery and story that is compelling and memorable, while creating a world I couldn't believe I was inside.
Your time has come at last, dear reader. But this story is not yours alone. No, it is tied to another.
Rounding out the first 15 games on my top 30 PSVR games is none other than Moss. This magical story about the quest of a little mouse called Quill plays like a children's storybook brought to life. With an incredibly polished and thoughtful art style and magical soundtrack, Moss is in some ways more art than game. With simplistic combat and some repetitive puzzle mechanics, I didn't find the gameplay of Moss to be overly compelling, more that it was the atmosphere and relationship with my little companion that kept me invested throughout the 4-hour campaign. Moss is an incredible example of the capabilities VR has to create worlds, tell stories, and creating meaningful and emotional bonds with characters that is simply not possible in any other medium.
And in its shadow find you bound.
And guys, that concludes part 1 of Shugghead Gaming's top 30 PSVR games. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, and for more PSVR content, please consider subscribing. Keep it here for part 2, where I will cover my personal top 15 titles for PlayStation VR. I will catch you guys in my next video.